Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. How are you guys doing? I hope you are doing well. Today I'm going to be doing a breakdown of a music video that I shot some time ago by Nanso Amandi and Beam. But before I get into the breakdown, I hope everybody's good and I hope that you are having a good day so far. My name is Denny. I am a cinematographer from Kingston, Jamaica, West Indies, not in New York. And I do gear reviews, I talk about filmmaking tips and tricks, and do cinematography breakdowns like this one today to help you level up your videography and cinematography skills. So, as I mentioned, I'm gonna do a cinematography breakdown, and I don't want to waste any time, so let's jump right into the music video. As you can see, it's an establishing shot of the room. This is where the guys were getting ready to go to the beach to meet up with the girls. Well, they didn't meet up with them, they ran into them. And so, simply put, I augmented the light for this one. So this window here, as you can see, that's all the way up in the corner, was letting in ambient light. I think the sun was on the opposite side. And so, there was daylight coming in, but we wanted to augment the light. And so what I went with was the Forza 500 watt pushing through this back window here. And that's giving us a lot of texture on this back wall here. I really wanted to break up the wall and to make it look interesting. And so just to give that daylight look that's beaming through the windows and hitting that back wall to make it more interesting. So that's what's happening right here. All right. The next thing I wanted to show you guys is that the use case of practicals and augmenting practical lights that are in your scene. So for this, I had a lamp that was in this corner here. And as you can see, the lamp is on and it's a more yellowish, warmish tone. That's what we would define as 3200 Kelvin. It's more warmer and gives that, that warm feeling and glow. So I wanted to use that in the room to just kind of break up the space, as I mentioned before. The next thing that I wanted to point out is this lamp here in the top of the roof, which is in our fan, a ceiling fan. That was also 3200 Kelvin. So that warm tone from the lamp is also being, introduced in the ceiling fan. So what I did, I used a light to augment that. So I had a light on a C-stand, and that light was the Aperture 300X. What that was doing, I boomed it out, so it's out of frame, but what that was doing was just sending some warmer tones in the space as well, where the talent would ended up being placed when they came into the scene. In this scene, you can see the talent, all of them in the space, and the light is hitting them from the front, hitting him from the front. And what I do love about this composition is we are shooting into the L of the room. And if you have ever watched any episode of The Wandering DP, his podcast, his YouTube channel, he always talks about shooting into the L of the room because this gives you the most depth to the room. And so that is the same thing that we did here. I also love the texture of the barrel, the floor, the wooden floor, the mat. There's this color scheme that is happening here, and it's very contrasty and complementary. So we have blue curtains that complement the red accent of the floors in the room, and also just the warmer tones of the door and the wall paint itself being that beigeish color. And then the sheets also played a major role. The patterns also broke up the sheets so that it's not just plain white sheets. So there was some texture in there. I really love that. And obviously the headboard, that was, this furniture brown. And everything was just so cohesive where color was concerned. Obviously, too, the wardrobe, as you can see, with those little hints of red and brown tones. So, everything kind of came together nicely. One other thing that I wanted to mention about this scene is that we were shooting on the Alexa Mini with the Ultra Prime lenses. So I don't remember what lens this was particular to get this wide shot, but yeah. So in this scene, this was basically before the girls headed out to the beach and, ran into the guys. For this scene, this was pretty simple as well, not many lights being used here. This back room was a bathroom and there were a few windows. There were windows on this side of the wall, and then there was a window over here. There's a window over here. And also for this room, there was a window behind this rack with the clothes. And I was basically pushing lights through those windows. I didn't want this back room where the bathroom is to fall into darkness, so I pushed some light there, and then I pushed 500-watt Forza through into this main room, which is giving you this texture right here on the back wall. That's why you're seeing this back wall. That's why you're seeing that texture on the wall. And I didn't want it to be too loud, so I wanted it to be a little bit subtle. And it worked out pretty well. It felt more natural, like daylight just bouncing off a surface coming into the room. And I really love that. One other thing to note, again, we are shooting into the L of the room, giving you depth and opening that doorway into the bathroom to extend the room so that it feels more three-dimensional. You can also see on the bed here, just that dappled light from pushing the light from outside. One other thing that I did in this room was to use the aperture of 300x. It was basically over here in this corner on a light stand, boomed out, and that was giving basically some warmer tones into the space. And that's what you're seeing on this talent's skin here, that warmer glow. I was pushing the light that way so that it can, make the skin pop. And again, keeping in theme with that warmer tone from the previous scene, and also using practicals again in this scene with this lamp here, and that bulb being at 3200 Kelvin as well. In this frame, you can see that it's a little bit more obvious with the daylight coming through the window and causing these patterns on our talent body and her face, lighting up her face. And as you can see, the light is hitting this back wall here. It's giving some nice specular highlights in her hair. Also giving her that highlight in the eyes, that catch light in the eyes. And, as you can see on the body in the shadow here and here, you can see that warmer tungsten tone, as well as the daylight 5600 Kelvin coming in on the face. So, getting that color contrast happening there with the 3200, the warmer tones and the more white balanced tones, So I really enjoyed playing with those two color schemes. All right, so let's look at this exterior shot where we have both artists performing. They were kind of on this deck. And what I did here was I had a Luxley 2x1 panel that was on a C-stand with a diffusion in front of it. I think it was a 5-in-1 reflector. Sometimes you don't necessarily need any frames, 4x4 frames, especially right here. We were racing to get back to Kingston. We were out of town. So we were maybe like 2 hours or 2.5 hours away from our second location. So we needed to really get there, get back to Kingston to shoot our final scene, which was the dance, the party scene. And so what happened here was I was using the Luxley to push light this way. And again, this was 3200 Kelvin. Again, keeping it warm and inviting. And then what I had on the opposite end was the Forza 500 watt. And that light was on a snoot. And basically what a snoot is, it's a cone shaped modifier that allows the light to be more focused. I didn't want it to be spilling all over the place on the background here, so I kind of just snooted it so that it will, give some kicker on the left side of the face. And I kind of placed it a little bit more behind the talent so that it edges them and separates them from the background. I'd have loved to boom it overhead and then firing it back so that it was more on their shoulders, but we didn't have the time to do that. So, and I also wanted the separation, which you can see here on his face, just a little bit on that side from that Forza, and that was set at daylight, 5600 Kelvin. So that's pretty much the settings of the light, 3200 Keenem, and then the 5600 500 watt. And obviously that wasn't at 100%. I don't remember how dim we had that light, but it wasn't giving its full potential. I didn't want it to be too powerful. Obviously at this time of day, it would be really powerful and strong. So the other thing that I wanted to mention that really worked well for color contrast in this scene is the blue in the sky, the blue of the water, and how the warmer tones would have been the opposite to that. So, you'll see in certain movies the teal and orange color scheme, it's very famous in Transformers and other, Hollywood blockbuster movies. Michael Bay uses it a lot. So for this, we were pretty much doing the same color scheme, teal and orange mixture. And so using the 5600, pushing that daylight in to the scene as a kicker, hair light, backlight, and then the 3200 to give that more warmth feel. So it really worked well for this scene. And this is just more images of that scene. You can see the kicker having that, effect here a lot more than the first shot. You can also see it on this image here with Beam, and you can see a little bit of catch light in his eyes from the light, and also the hair light or the kicker light / backlight coming in here to give him that separation from the sky, and also that warmer tone, overall tone from that 3200 Luxley, which is a bicolor. No, it is a RGBW panel light, and so I could do any color I want. So I really dialed in this 3200. It might be a little bit warmer. The color grade maybe affected how much richer that warmth is, but I think I was using 3200. If it wasn't 3200, it was maybe 2700 Kelvin, because that's the lowest that the Luxley can go to in terms of Kelvin. So more stills from that scene. All right, so this was one of my favorite scenes, lighting. It was a huge challenge because it was a fairly large space, and there was going to be a lot of people in the space as well. And so approaching this, I wanted to keep the consistency of the warmth, that inviting feel to the image, and also obviously using that teal to offset and be that color balance and contrast in the scene, right? So what we did was there's a fence back here, right? So there's a fence back here, and we're also shooting into the L of this room as well, of course, to get more depth. Because over this side over here was the DJ, and then we eventually shot him a little bit later as just B-roll. But the DJ was over there, and I didn't want to look that way because there's a huge tree on that side. And then there is a palm tree right here that you can see the texture of. So what I did was there's a light right here, as you can see, it's in frame. I couldn't get it out of frame. The light stands that we had only went up so high. And so what I did was you can kind of see the light here, which was the 300X. So I had the 300X above here on a China ball, and it was skirted, a little bit skirted. A China ball basically is a lantern softbox that can give you it's a lantern softbox modifier that can give you a 360-degree lighting. And so for this, I know I wanted to use that to give me enough output while focusing the light a little bit with the skirt. And so that's what I did here. I skirted off the light, which the light was on a boom arm, and we boomed it. It was on a combo stand, and it was behind the fence, and we boomed it over the fence onto the scene, and so that we could have it out of frame. And that was a challenge doing that as well, but we got it done. And the other things that I did outside of this frame, on frame left, there was a hallway, and in the hallway I had some tube lights that were in the ceiling, and I had put those to a teal color to contrast the 3200 Kelvin that was coming in from the aperture 300X. And so this light over here that was giving some backlight, that teal backlight, was I think it was a newer panel light. It was an affordable light, but as you can see, it doesn't really matter if you're using expensive equipment. Once you can get good color out of that fixture, it really doesn't matter. And so for this scene, there's also a tube light here, as you can see in frame. So I had a few of those lights in the hallway coming down from the ceiling and giving that teal that you're seeing here on the guys here, and also matching this backlight in the background. And this tube light was just giving a different color in the mix, just to break up the eyes as well, to give visual interest. And you can see in this frame. The next thing that I did like too is these. I did love the string lights that were happening in the background. It gave some interest to the frame. I would love to have some more, but it did its job, and it gave some visual interest. So, you know, once again, augmenting what is already in the space, and it feels as if these string lights are giving off that warmer tone coming in this way, you know, but it was really the 300X. The next thing I used a lot of haze and smoke machine. That's what you're seeing here, to just give atmosphere. You know, I use a lot of haze and a lot of smoke to add more atmosphere to the scene and give it a bit more of a, I wanted to see the light bloom, you know, and it really added another flavor and texture to the image. And I really love using haze. Almost every cinematographer love using haze. As you can see the haze here in the background, just kind of softening that background and making it, you know, making it a little bit more three-dimensional, or act as our talent and the artist really stood out from the background because of that. And so, the depth of field matching with the color contrast really separated them from the background. You can see the teal from the that panel light, the newer panel light coming in here, hitting that back speaker and separating it, as well as a little bit of that teal hitting or actors or talent and the artist and separating them from the background. And you can feel that 3200 coming in here. So as you can see in this frame, you can see that there's a lot of separation going on. So there's light here, shadow, and light on his arm, but then shadow here, and then light hitting her face, but there's shadow on the back of her head, and then there's light here, and then there's shadow, and then there's a rim of light on this guy's arm, and so on and so forth. So, Wandering DP would always say, Sullivan, he would always say, salt and pepper, black and white. That's what makes a dynamic and interesting image, and this is what we're doing here. We're using light and shadow to create a more dynamic image. And as you can see, a lot more haze. Can you really overdo haze? Maybe, yeah, you can. But I'm really pushing a lot of smoke in this scene, you know what I mean? To break up the image and give it more visual interest. And it really makes some of the light pop. You can see this glow, this teal glow here that's happening. Maybe the scene is a little bit too much with the haze, but yeah. These sunset shots, exterior shots at the beach were some of my favorites as well. As you can see, well, for this scene, we weren't necessarily shooting on we are shooting on the shadow side. Reason being, the light is coming in, the sun, I didn't use any type of modifiers or lights for this one. This was just all natural light, right? And so the sun in all its glory is just beaming this way in the late afternoon sun. This is probably around 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And it's just, as you can see, the warm tones of the sun, it's amazing. And so she's looking directly into the light. That's why you can see a little bit of catchlight in her eye. And because we are below this raised section of the beach, it cuts perfectly across her body, giving some shadows and some light and giving some interest to her face. And I really love that. I really love how the light is interacting with her eyes and interacting with her skin, and she's glowing, and it's just amazing. And then obviously, because of the water behind, it's bouncing and causing reflections here on the back side of her shoulder, and that's basically separating her from the background. Again, not using any lights at all, just knowing how to use natural light to your advantage is a must. And so that's what's happening here. Pretty simple and straightforward. And again, here, you could have seen this girl in the background here. She's in the background on the rock. So this is her close-up. And this time her back is turned to the sun. And we have someone over here standing with a whiteboard bounce just to give some return as fill to this side of her face. And the sun is acting as a backlight, in this scenario. You can see it in her hair, and that's just giving her some separation while we fill in some of those shadows. Her face was a little bit too underexposed to my liking. So I added some fill there, and it came out pretty nice. So that's it for this breakdown of Nanso and Beam, featuring Beam Kiliamanjaro music video. I hope you learned something from this breakdown, and I hope that you will use some of these practices. As you can see, you don't need a lot of lights to do certain things, and sometimes you only need a bounce in certain situations. And knowing when to shoot, what time of day to shoot, to ensure that you have the best quality light, and using the sun to your advantage, and then simply using a bounce to fill in the face on your talent, and you're good to go. So thank you guys for sticking with me. I hope that you stuck it out to the end of the video, and really appreciate it. If you want to see more content like this, don't forget to subscribe and like this video so that you can tell the algorithm. Don't forget to like this video so that you can tell the algorithm that you enjoyed watching this content, and so that you can push to other people who may be of similar mindset as you and want to learn cinematography and videography. So thank you so much for the support, guys, and I'll see you in the next video.